Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I'm a buddy Rhett, and I've got her favorite kind of nut, an almond. She loves these almonds because they have soft shells and all of that. So there is that. Waiting for the our application to build out. I also need to get the unit tests running. npm start, and in the meantime, I can drag in our code coverage file. This is a file that gets generated by the unit tests, and it's mostly because, let's go back over here. Because when I go to build, oh, did I say npm start? Okay, that was a mistake. And I don't know why the second one is so much faster than the first one. So npm run test. And when it runs, it adds this dash dash watch and dash dash code coverage to the test command. And so when we have that code coverage, if everything's configured right, it'll generate this index.html inside this coverage folder. And in here, you can see what your coverage is. As you can see, we have pretty good coverage. We have 487 out of 509 statements, 448 out of 506 lines of code. I have no idea why they've separated those. It seems like silly. Whatever, I know whatever the difference is, like I've never seen where you have 100% of lines and then not 100% of statements, and I definitely have never seen where you have 100% of statements and you don't have 100% of lines. So why they separate that out, I don't know. 97, so 131 of my 135 functions are covered, and 59 of my 68 branches are covered. In my experience, branches have always been the most difficult to achieve code coverage. And in my experience, code coverage and unit tests have always been just a kind of a chore something you have to do for no good reason. Um, I never really put a lot of thought into it, but now that in this project, we've been working on this since the first of the year. I started this the first day of the year, and we are on the 8th of July now. And as of the 8th of July, I would say that's a little over 7 months. We've probably done 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months of it have been completely dedicated to unit testing. So it's been a tremendous investment to achieve 100% coverage in unit tests. I've gotten a lot better at doing unit tests, and I'm starting to really see why you would want to do unit tests. And the main reason you want, I think, that I have, through just observation and through just kind of working through this, the main reason you want to do unit tests is because so it gives you an opportunity to really do a deep analysis of the actual stability of the code at the most basic level. So I feel like, I kind of ran into, I offhandedly said there's a time and place for everything. It put me into sort of a weird introspection for a couple of days where I was like, wait, there isn't a time and a place for everything. You have to make a time and a place for everything. And then I was like, well, before you can make a time and place for everything, you kind of have to define everything. At least for you, obviously you can't define everything. Everything is everything. But for me, everything at this point is the basic structure of the application. There's the actual application, if it works and works the way I want it to work, and then there's adding features and fixing bugs. Right? That's everything in my world at this point in time. And so when I have to create a time and a place for ensuring that the basic structure, foundational structure, it makes sense in that time and places during unit testing. So the bad news is unit testing is taking a tremendous amount of time in which we don't get any value in the application really out of it, or very little, and any value we're getting is completely and utterly like secondary, not primary. Um, it's not obvious what the value is, but But the good news is unit testing is getting faster. But every time it gets faster, I find a way to be more thorough. Every time I get more thorough, it gets slower. Then I get faster again. So as an individual developer, my ability to write nice, clean, tight code is getting better. So as part of personal development, it's been absolutely amazing. Um, I could have probably worked on features and bug fixes for the rest of my life and never gotten as much improvement in my foundational ability to build code as this unit test exercise has given me. So, anyways, we only have one file that isn't at 100%. It's actually gotten pretty good. It's 88.7% on, or 83.7 on lines and 80, and it has the same number of lines as statements. Um, its functions are 88.8, which is 88, almost up to 90, which has been quite the challenge because every time I turn around, I have actually keep creating new functions, but my branches is only 15 or 24, which notoriously, in my experience, trying to get the branches is the hard part. Um, and so, like, the fewer branches you can do, the better. And I think that is true for code in general. Like branching, having tons and tons of branches is sort of loosely affiliated with complexity. So the more branches you have, the more complex the code is. The less, this more simple and basic every line of code, every unit of code is, the easier it typically is to understand and to build. So, anyways, if your goal is to just like kind of be able to build really cool applications and stuff like that, this probably is not the channel for you. If you are, if you're just interested in sort of going on a journey to hear stuff about building code, then this is probably your place. It's not many people's places. I've been doing this for a couple years now. I've got, you know, several hundred. I don't have anywhere near 1,000 subscribers yet, so obviously most people aren't that interested in. But I will say that on a personal basis, every video I've ever had that's given me massive amounts of growth, that has really taken me to the next level, has only had a few views. I would say the most impactful series of videos I had only had like their biggest, it was like 15 videos. It was about JavaScript memory and scoping, and that the first 10 videos, the first video had like 30 views, and then like the last 5 videos had 0 views. I was the only person who had ever watched them, and they were several years old, and those were like the videos that really made a difference. So, you know, it doesn't really bother me that I don't have very many views, but I don't want to be insensitive to the fact that I don't have very many views. So anyways, here we go. So we can click in and we can see what has coverage. And I've done this a couple times where I've gone over here and I've seen, I kind of did a deep analysis because I like to go from easiest to hardest when it comes to unit testing. That's not always the case, but for unit testing, that is the case. And every one, all of these are extremely complex. And I'm dealing with some super advanced concepts in JavaScript in this thing. And the name of this service, this is a service, and the name of it is visualization service, and it is by far the most complex service of all that. Of all of this, this is like what 113 lines of code, and the overall application is 400. So it's even a huge, like it's represents like 20% of the application in code. So this visualization section is just difficult. It's just very difficult. So anyways, I renamed this to get a next available right. It was like get furthest right or something like that yesterday. Now it's get next available right. So basically, let's just see if this makes sense. Okay, so we have a variable named right, it returns right. So that makes sense. If you're trying to get the next available right, and you name the variable right, and you get it right, And so it gets all the siblings for a row siblings. So in the English language, the last word, we're tail-ended language. The last word is what is yours. So if you say this is a red car, it's a car. But in some other languages, and I don't even know what the majority is, but some languages, it's the other way around. It's like a car of red. Um, so since I'm primarily an English speaker, and by primarily I mean almost exclusively an English speaker, I like things to be um, like I like the last word to be the most important word. So row siblings. So it's a set of siblings, and they are divided by rows, right? So a row is sort of a adjective of siblings, and siblings are the noun. That's kind of how we like to do it. It's a red car. Um, if you're like a Spanish speaker, you probably, and I think Spanish was my first tongue, but I don't know Spanish anymore. But, it would be, you'd probably want car red. So you'd probably want siblings row, right? So it would be some siblings, and siblings are related. Um, Siblings have the same parent. So these are the siblings of some parent, and they all are in the same row. And it's the next available right, which right now isn't quite right, because what we really wanted to do in the future, at this point, I don't care about this, but right now what I'm doing is I'm finding the one that's the all the way to the right, and and all that. But if there was a gap in the middle, I don't look for those. And I know that that may be something I want in the future, but it may not, and it's going to be a lot of work to get that, to figure that out. So then I do like a loop over each one of them, and then I find the current left position. So if let's go over here and let's go to the application. Let's see, it's 8:45, so I only have like 10 more minutes. So if I add one of these, the next available right is right here. So if I add a second one, the next available right is right here. Okay, so when we look at the code, we say find the visualizations left, add its width, and then that is a right. Now, if I find another viz that has more, then it's not, then it'll replace it. But if it doesn't have more, then if it's not further to the right, then we just stay with the original one, because we do this set of arrays. This is not guaranteed to be in any sort of order. So I like this. I like this a lot. This is probably kind of a style of coding that I learned 1998, 1999. I think that it makes a lot of sense, but I do think we can do better today in modern coding. Um, we could do a lot better. We can do an operation to put these in an order. I think in 1998, the operation that we would do to put these in order would be very expensive, but today it's dirt cheap. The browser can optimize things. There's no reason to not make this read be a little bit less sort of coding through implication. Like it's implied that if we always take the most rightmost one, and if it's greater, we add it, but if it's not greater, we don't add it, we don't assign it. Like that implies that we're going to get the most rightmost one. But that and it's kind of guaranteed, but it would be kind of better if it's read a little bit more of a narrative as opposed to an implication. So I feel like, and I don't know this because I'm sort of doing something new here, I feel like the best thing to do would be to sort them. I think it's easy to understand, probably because we've all used Excel and spreadsheets and stuff like that. It's easy to understand having a list sorted in a certain way. So just so that this can read more like um, a narrative as opposed to like an oh, well, we've implied that it's always going to be the right. We can just read it as a narrative. I think the first thing would be is to sort the array, to create a new list that is sorted. And so, and then in JavaScript, something to think about is that when I take a list and I sort it, the items within the list, since they're objects, only because it's an object, the items in the list are going to be the same items in both lists. So I'm going to have this other list, this row siblings list, and then I'm going to have a sorted list. That's two lists, but they're lists of the exact same items. Now, if these weren't objects, they would actually be different items. But since they're objects, they're the same object items. Either that makes total sense to you, and there's absolutely no reason for me to go any deeper into this, or it doesn't make a bit of sense, and there's no way I'll be able to put enough time into explaining that. So it's kind of something like, if that didn't make total sense to you, then if I didn't just waste your time, you really should study like how lists hold objects versus how they hold primitives. So so we are going to get the next available right. See how I say get farthest left? That's how I think. But this is get next available right. And I'm just going to put a little note for myself in the future. Assumes that the next right is the furthermost. So my intention is to get the next available right. But what I'm actually doing is getting the furthest available right. So this doesn't quite do exactly what, because maybe the next available, like let's say I have a visualization that's 100 wide, and let's say I have, it's surrounded on, there's one that's 200 wide, and then a gap of 300, and then another one that's 200 wide. Well, the next available right is not the one to the right of that, but it's actually the one in the middle. But I don't know if that's how I'm gonna want it to be, like, or I don't even know if it's gonna matter in the future. But I want this. Okay, so initialize to 0. Then now I want to sort these. Now sorting it, and I want to sort by the first step will be to sort them. One, sort visualizations, and that's not quite right. Create a new list of the visualizations sorted by right position, by left position, really, left position. And then largest to smallest. So I think that's easy to understand, right? We're going to create a new list of the visualizations sorted from left position, largest to smallest. And those visualizations are the same visualizations. They're just in a different list. The wrapper, the container, is the same. It is a different container, but the items are the same, which is not how real life works. Like in real life, if I had a various, let's say, bottles of water of various sizes, I could not have them in two different coolers in different ways, right? But in JavaScript, in memory, I have the exact same ones in two, and that's because I have references. So let's say every bottle had a number on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is like, let's say that was the age of the bottle, and now I want them by size instead. Then I would have a list that was like 5, 8, 1, 2, with the and that is because that 5821 is a reference to a bottle. So I can have a list of the references, and that's all I'm creating is a list of the references. But the references are, instead of being ordered by when they were created, they're being ordered by when how which one is to the farthest right, but it's the left position, the largest left number. So, anyways, so I'm going to make that a constant, and I'm going to call that sorted visualizations. And this is going to be an array of visualizations. So we're going to tell TypeScript that to expect an array of visualizations. And that is going to equal, and I added an extra. We're going to create a function that does that. Equals, and this dot get sorted visualizations. And I guess what is interesting here is that we could actually do like test-driven development at this point. Like we know exactly what we want from our get sorted visualizations doesn't exist yet. We could write a unit test for it and then watch to see how it did. But right now, get sorted visualization doesn't exist, and it's going to take our row siblings. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here, and really I'm only doing this because I want it to read like a narrative instead of read like, because I feel like this reads more like an implementation. And I think this is super clever. I think it feels good to write stuff like this, but it isn't the best. Okay, so now I'm going to say get sorted. Let me just copy this. We're just going to get this signature done, and then I've got to log off because I've got work to do. And we're just going to set up the, so it's still row siblings, and then it's going to return this. Now, should they be called row siblings? Probably. And then I think we should make it now that we're down in the, and we're going to just return it for now. Return row siblings. Okay, so we're not doing anything to it. And then this is also a set of visualizations, but we really want horizontal. It's only get sorted visualization. So they're get horizontally. Because we might get them sorted some other way in the future, and it will be very confusing to do that. Now, I don't know why it's get horizontally, sorted. Oh, and then we have this sorted in the wrong place. So we have our verb at the beginning, get. We're getting something. The first thing is it's horizontally. Something horizontally. Oh, it's horizontally sorted. And the last word is visualizations. So those are the nouns. That's what we're getting. So that is sort of how English works. If to you, you're thinking, no, I want visualizations that are, and I don't know how that would work in Spanish, if it would be like sorted horizontally or horizontally sorted. But you know, it's just the structure of the language that you speak that might affect the way what sounds right and what doesn't sound right there. So anyways, we need to do this and to do. And then we'll write a unit test for this thing, and then we can move on to the next thing. So we could, you know, we could write the unit test before we write the code, or we can write the code before the unit test. Either way, at this point. Anyways, yeah, I got 2 minutes before I have to start work. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.